The space station called Gentle Dawn floated in the darkness of space like a flower made of metal and light. It circled a pale blue moon that had no name, just a number in some old star chart that nobody remembered anymore. The station was not big and not small. It was just right for the people who lived there. Merchants came and went. Families made homes in its curved hallways. Children played in its gardens where fake sunlight fell through glass ceilings. Had lived on Gentle Dawn for 3 years now. She worked as a translator for the station's diplomatic office, helping different species talk to each other without fighting. It was quiet work, safe work, the kind of work that let her sleep at night without bad dreams. She was human, which made her interesting to most of the station's residents. Humans were still new to the galaxy. They had only joined the galactic community 50 years ago, and most species still did not know what to make of them. They were soft. They had no claws, no armor, no venom. They lived short lives and broke easily. At least, that is what everyone believed. Was 29 years old. She had brown hair that she kept tied back and dark eyes that noticed everything. She was not tall for a human, but she was still taller than most, which was the main species living on Gentle Dawn. They looked like foxes that had learned to walk on two legs. They had silver-white fur that shimmered under the station lights, large ears that could turn in any direction, and wide eyes the color of honey. They were beautiful creatures, gentle and kind. Their civilization was ancient, built on art and trade and friendship. They had never fought a war. They did not understand violence the way other species did. This made them targets, but tried not to think about that. She tried to enjoy the peace while it lasted. Her favorite part of the day was the afternoon, when she would sit in the small garden near the nursery deck and read old Earth books on her tablet. The garden had grass and flowers and a tiny stream that made soft sounds as it flowed over smooth stones. It was fake, all of it, made by machines, but it felt real enough to calm her heart. It was during one of these afternoons that she first met. He was a cub, maybe 4 years old in human terms, though the counted age differently. He was smaller than the other cubs, with fur that was more gray than silver and one ear that bent at a strange angle. The bent ear was a birth defect, the nursery workers had told her. It did not hurt him, but it made him different. And being different was hard for children, no matter what species they belonged to. Had wandered away from the nursery and found sitting alone in the garden. He stood at the edge of the grass, watching her with those big honey-colored eyes, his small nose twitching. "Hello," said in the language. Her accent was not perfect, but it was good enough. The cub tilted his head. "You are the human." "I am a human," she said. "There are many of us." "I have never seen one before, not close." He took a small step forward. "You have no fur." Smiled. "No, we have very little fur, just on our heads mostly." "Does it not hurt, being cold?" "We wear clothes to stay warm, and our bodies make heat on the inside." Thought about this. Then he walked over and sat down beside her, close enough that his fur brushed against her arm. He smelled like milk and flowers, the way all children smelled. "What are you looking at?" he asked, pointing to her tablet. "A story from my home world." "What kind of story?" "A sad one, about a man who loses everything but keeps trying anyway." Wrinkled his nose. "Why would you read sad stories?" Laughed softly. "Sometimes sad stories help us feel less alone in our sadness." The cub did not understand this, but he nodded as if he did. After that day, he came to find her every afternoon. He would escape the nursery, which was easy because did not believe in locks, and he would run through the hallways until he found her. At first, the nursery workers were worried, but promised to watch him and bring him back safely each time. Soon it became normal. The strange human woman and the little cub with the bent ear, sitting together in the garden, talking about nothing important. Taught him human songs, simple ones like the songs about stars and rain and sleeping. Could not pronounce all the words, but he tried very hard, and his trying made her heart feel warm. She also let him play with her bracelet. It was made of brown leather, old and worn soft from years of touching. Her brother had made it for her when they were both children on Earth. He had died in an accident 10 years ago, and the bracelet was all she had left of him. She never took it off, but she let touch it, turn it around her wrist, trace the simple pattern carved into the leather. "Why do you keep this?" he asked one day. "Because someone I loved made it for me." "Where is that someone now?" "Gone far away." Looked at her with those big eyes. "You are sad." "A little, but having you here makes me less sad." The cub smiled and pressed his face against her shoulder, showed affection through touch, through closeness. It had taken time to get used to it, but now she welcomed it. Days turned into weeks, weeks turned into months. Life on Gentle Dawn continued in its slow, peaceful way. Ships came and went. New families arrived while old ones moved on. The seasons changed in the fake gardens, programmed by computers to remind everyone of the worlds they had left behind. Started to think that maybe this was where she belonged. Not on Earth, where everything reminded her of loss. Not on some colony world struggling to build something new. But here, on this small station, doing small work, caring for a small cub who needed someone to care for him. She should have known it would not last. Peace never lasted, not in this galaxy, not anywhere. The first sign came on a morning that seemed like any other. Was walking to her office when she noticed the around her moving faster than usual. Their ears were pressed flat against their heads, a sign of fear. Their tails were tucked low. She stopped a merchant she knew, a middle-aged named Bora who sold fabric and thread. "What is happening?" asked. Bora's eyes were wide. Ships coming toward the station, unknown design. "Pirates." "Worse," Bora's voice dropped to a whisper. "They are saying it might be the—" Felt something cold move through her chest. She had heard of the everyone had. They were raiders, killers, monsters with no mercy. They came from the dark spaces between stars and they took everything they wanted. No one fought them. No one could. The Galactic Council had declared them a natural disaster, like a storm or an earthquake. When they came, you did not fight. You ran. "Get to the escape pods," said. "Now." Bora nodded and hurried away. Stood alone in the hallway, her heart beating hard. She thought of her office, of her work, of all the small things that had made up her small life. Then she thought of the nursery deck. She started running. The alarms began screaming when was halfway to the nursery deck. Red lights flashed in the hallways. The station's computer spoke in a calm voice that did not match the terror of its words. "Warning, unknown vessels approaching. All residents proceed to emergency stations. This is not a drill. Warning, unknown vessels approaching." Ran faster. The hallways were filled with families trying to reach the escape pods. Mothers carried their cubs. Fathers shouted for loved ones. Old ones moved as quickly as their tired legs could take them. Everyone was afraid. Could smell it in the air, that sharp scent of panic that all mammals shared. She pushed through the crowd, saying sorry over and over but not slowing down. The nursery was 3 levels up and 2 sections over. In normal times, it was a 10-minute walk. She needed to make it in 2. The station shook. Something had hit them or connected to them, did not know which was worse. She reached a lift and found it was not working. The power had been cut or damaged. She did not waste time being angry. She found the emergency ladder beside the lift and started climbing, her arms pulling her up rung by rung. Her muscles burned. Her lungs ached. She had not run like this in years. On the station, there was no need for running, no need for strength. She had let herself become soft in the peace of Gentle Dawn. She thought of, alone and scared, waiting for someone to come for him. She climbed faster. When she reached the nursery level, she found chaos. The hallway was filled with smoke from a damaged air system. Workers were trying to gather the cubs, but there were too many children and not enough adults. Cubs were crying, calling for their parents. Some had hidden under furniture, too scared to move. Pushed into the main nursery room and searched for the one face she needed to see. She shouted, "Where are you?" No answer, just crying and screaming and the endless wail of the alarms. She moved through the room, looking under tables, behind shelves, in every corner. He was not there. He was not anywhere. One of the workers, a young woman with blood on her face from a small cut, grabbed arm. "The human," the worker said. "Some of the cubs ran when the shaking started. They went toward the garden level. We could not stop them." The garden, of course. Knew the garden. It was where he always came to find her. "I will get them," said. "Get the others to the escape pods." "But the—" "Go now." The worker hesitated, then nodded and started gathering the remaining cubs, turned and ran back into the smoke-filled hallway. The station shook again, harder this time. Lights flickered and died. Emergency lights came on, painting everything in dim red. Kept running, following the path she knew by heart, the path she had walked every day to sit in that fake garden and read her fake books and pretend that everything was fine. She found them in the garden, 3 cubs huddled together near the little stream. 2 of them she did not know. The third was, his bent ear pressed flat, his small body shaking. He cried when he saw her. She dropped to her knees and pulled all 3 cubs close. "It is okay. I am here. We are going to be okay." "What is happening?" one of the other cubs asked. She was a little female with white fur and terrified eyes. "Bad people are coming, but we are going to hide from them, and then we are going to get on a ship and fly away. Can you be brave for me?" The cubs nodded, though their shaking did not stop. Stood and took's hand. "Stay close, do not let go, no matter what." They moved through the garden toward the emergency exit. Could hear sounds now, sounds that did not belong on a peaceful station. Screaming, energy weapons firing, the click-click-click of something walking on metal floors, something that was not human. She reached the exit and found a man there blocking the door. A human man, big and broad, with a shaved head and scars on his arms. He held a metal pipe in his hands, gripping it like a weapon. "Who are you?" asked. "I haul cargo, or I did before those things showed up." He looked at the cubs behind her. "You trying to get to the shuttles?" "Yes." "Me too. I know a back way, through the maintenance tunnels. Probably have not found those yet." Studied him for a moment. She had learned to read people in her years as a translator. This man was scared like everyone else, but he was also angry. Angry was good. Angry meant he would fight. "Lead the way," she said. They moved through the station like ghosts, staying in the shadows, taking paths that only workers and mechanics would know. Had been on Gentle Dawn for 2 weeks, waiting for his ship to be repaired. He had learned the back routes because he got bored easily and liked to explore. "Lucky for us," he said quietly as they crawled through a ventilation shaft. "Unlucky for everybody else." "How many ships?" asked. 3, maybe 4, hard to tell. They came out of nowhere, no warning. Station defenses did not even fire. Gentle Dawn has no weapons. Made a sound that was almost a laugh. I noticed. They dropped down from the shaft into a storage room filled with boxes and crates. The cubs were exhausted, their small legs tired from all the running and climbing. Picked up the smallest one, the white-furred female, and carried her. Carried the other unknown cub. Walked on his own, holding tight to shirt. "The shuttle bay is through that door and down one more hallway," said. "If they have not found it yet, we might actually make it." "And if they have?" He looked at the pipe in his hand. "Then I guess we find out how good I am with this thing." They moved to the door, opened it slowly, checking the hallway beyond. It was empty, dark, silent. Too silent. "Something is wrong," whispered. "I know, but we do not have a choice. The other routes are blocked." She nodded. "Go quickly." They moved down the hallway, their footsteps soft on the metal floor. The shuttle bay doors were visible now, big and gray at the end of the corridor. Behind those doors were ships, escape, safety. 50 meters. 40. 30. They stepped out of the darkness like nightmares made real. Had seen pictures of them, but pictures did not capture the horror. They were tall, taller than any human, with bodies like insects wrapped in black armor. They had 4 arms, each one ending in something that looked like a blade made of bone. Their heads were flat and wide, with compound eyes that reflected the red emergency lights like pools of blood. There were 4 of them, blocking the path to the shuttle bay. The lead looked at the small group of survivors. Its mouth parts moved, making sounds that might have been laughter. Pulled the cubs behind her, raised his pipe though his hands were shaking. Humans, the said, its voice was like stones grinding together. And little ones, good, very good. It raised its upper right arm and saw what it held. A plasma cutter, a tool meant for cutting through ship hulls. In the hands of it was a weapon that could slice through bone and flesh like they were nothing. The pointed the plasma cutter at the cubs huddled behind. The small ones, it said, they come with us. And something inside began to change. The hallway was silent except for the soft crying of the cubs. The red emergency lights made everything look like a bad dream, painting the walls and floor in the color of blood. Stood very still, her body between the raiders and the children behind her. She could feel small hands gripping her shirt. He was shaking so hard that she could feel it through the fabric. The other 2 cubs had pressed themselves against the wall, trying to make themselves as small as possible. That was what did when they were afraid. They made themselves small. They hoped the danger would pass them by. But knew the danger would not pass, not this time. The lead took a step forward. Its body moved in a way that was wrong, joints bending in directions that human joints could not bend. Its 4 arms clicked and shifted, the blade-like ends catching the light. The plasma cutter in its upper right hand hummed with power, ready to cut through anything. Human female, the said, its compound eyes looked up and down, studying her the way a butcher might study meat. You are not valuable, small, weak, short life. But the little ones, they are valuable, young, trainable, many years of use. Did not answer. She was too busy thinking. Her mind was running through options, through possibilities, through everything she knew about and about fighting and about survival. They were strong. Their armor was natural, grown from their own bodies, hard as metal. They were fast despite their size. They had 4 arms, which meant they could attack from multiple directions at once. They were predators, designed by evolution to kill and take. Humans were none of those things. But humans had something else, something that the galaxy had not yet learned to fear. Move, the said, or we kill you and take them anyway, makes no difference to us. Stepped up beside, his pipe raised. His face was pale, but his jaw was set. You want them, you go through us. They made that grinding sound again, the one that might have been laughter. Brave, stupid, but brave. We will remember your courage when we sell your bones. The other 3 spread out, forming a half circle around the survivors. They moved with the easy confidence of predators who had never met anything they could not kill. Why would they be afraid? They were pacifists. Humans were soft and short-lived. Nothing in this part of space could challenge them. Looked at the shuttle bay doors, so close but so far away. Even if she ran, even if she somehow got past she could not carry all 3 cubs. She could not save them all, and leaving any of them behind was not something she could do. Whispered from behind her, his voice was so small, so scared. I am frightened. I know, she said softly. Close your eyes. What? Close your eyes and count to 20. Can you do that for me? Yes. Good, do not open them until I tell you. She heard him start counting in a shaky voice. 1, 2, 3. The lead tilted its head. Strange human, what are you doing? Praying to your gods. They cannot help you here. Nothing can help you here. felt something happening inside her body. It was a feeling she had not felt in a long time. Her heart was beating faster, pumping blood to her muscles. Her breathing deepened, pulling more air into her lungs. Her vision sharpened, the world becoming clearer and brighter despite the dim red lights. This was the thing that humans did not talk about, the thing they had learned to hide since joining galactic society. It was called many names in many cultures: the fight response, the rage, the beast inside. Humans were not strong like but when humans were pushed far enough, when the people they loved were in danger, something ancient woke up inside them. Something from a time when humans had to fight off predators with nothing but rocks and sticks. Something that did not know how to give up. Something that did not know how to stop. 456. Last chance human female, the said, move or die. Looked at the arm, the one holding the plasma cutter. She looked at its joints, where the armor was thinnest. She looked at the way it was standing, where its weight was resting. She had never fought a before. She had never fought anyone in a real battle. She had taken self-defense classes on Earth years ago. She had exercised to stay healthy on the station. That was all. But she was not thinking about training now. She was not thinking at all. Her mind had become very quiet, very still, like the surface of water before a storm. 789. The other in the hallway, the few who had been frozen in place when they appeared, were watching with wide eyes. They saw the human woman standing there, small and soft and fragile, facing 4 armored killers. They saw what they believed was a dead woman making a final pointless stand. They did not see what was happening beneath her skin. Her muscles were tightening, filling with oxygen-rich blood. Her adrenal glands were pumping chemicals into her system, preparing her body for what was coming. Her mind was filtering out everything that did not matter: the fear, the doubt, the voice that told her she could not win. All that was left was the target and the goal. Protect the cubs, kill anything that threatened them. 10, 11, 12. Glanced at and saw something that made him take a step back. Her eyes had changed. They were still the same dark brown, but there was something behind them now. Something that he recognized from old stories, from war footage, from the parts of human history that they did not teach in schools anymore. He said quietly. She did not answer. She was not anymore, not entirely. 13, 14, 15. The lead grew tired of waiting. It raised the plasma cutter higher and began walking toward the cubs. Enough talk, it said. We take them now, kill the humans. The other moved forward, their blade arms raised. 16, 17. Shifted her weight onto her back foot. Her hands hung loose at her sides, fingers slightly curled. She was not in a fighting stance. She did not look like she was ready to do anything. The watching thought she had given up. The thought the same. They were all wrong. 18, 19. The lead reached for. Moved. Later, when the survivors told the story, they would argue about what happened next. Some said the human woman vanished and reappeared. Some said she moved so fast that their eyes could not follow her. Some said she became something else entirely, something not human, something ancient and terrible. The truth was simpler and more frightening. She just moved, the way humans had moved for 1,000,000 years when their children were in danger. The way a mother moved when a predator came too close. The way a protector moved when there was no other choice. They did not see her coming. No one did. 20. Opened his eyes. And the screaming began. The lead's arm came down in a killing arc, the plasma cutter aimed at the cubs. It was a movement that had made 1,000 times before. It was fast. It was brutal. It always worked. Until now. His hands caught this arm at the joint, where the natural armor was weakest. Her fingers found the gap between the hard plates, digging into the softer material beneath. She twisted her whole body, using her hips and legs and back, putting every bit of her weight into a single motion. The arm came off. It was not a clean separation. Chitin cracked, something wet tore. Green-black fluid sprayed across face and chest. The arm, still holding the plasma cutter, fell to the floor with a heavy thud. The screamed. It was a sound that no one in that hallway had ever heard before. They did not scream. There were the ones who made others scream. But now the lead raider was staggering backward, its remaining arms waving wildly, fluid pumping from the place where its limb had been. The other three froze. For one precious second they did nothing. They could not understand what they were seeing. It did not make sense. Humans were weak. Humans were soft. Humans did not rip arms off. That second was all needed. She moved to the next, the one on her right. It tried to raise its blade arms to defend itself, but it was too slow. Drove her elbow into its chest, into the center of its body where the armor plates met. She felt something crack beneath the impact. The doubled over, making a choking sound. She grabbed its upper left arm and pulled. This time she knew what to expect. She braced her feet against the floor, tightened her grip, and tore the limb free with a wet, horrible sound. The second collapsed, screaming alongside its leader. Was fighting the third. He swung his pipe with desperate strength, aiming for the creature's head. The pipe connected, denting this armor but not stopping it. The slashed at him with two of its arms, cutting his jacket and the skin beneath. Reached them before they could strike again. She grabbed the creature by what might have been its neck, the narrow part between its head and body. Her fingers found gaps in the armor, places where she could hold on. She lifted. The weighed more than she did, much more. But she lifted it anyway, her muscles screaming, her bones aching with the effort. She did not think about whether it was possible. She just did it. She threw the... It flew through the air and crashed into the fourth raider, the one that had been circling behind them. Both hit the wall with enough force to crack the metal panels. They fell to the floor in a tangle of arms and legs and did not get up. The hallway was quiet again. Stood in the middle of the carnage, her chest rising and falling with heavy breaths. Her hands were covered in alien blood, green-black and thick like oil. Her arms shook, not from fear but from the massive effort she had just made. 11 seconds. The whole fight had lasted 11 seconds. The lead was still alive, crawling away from her on its remaining arms. It was making sounds, words in its own language that did not understand. Maybe it was calling for help. Maybe it was cursing her. Maybe it was praying. She walked toward it. It looked up at her with its compound eyes. For the first time in its life, it felt something it had never felt before. Something that it had only ever seen in its victims. Fear. "What are you?" it asked in broken common. Its voice was weak, wet with fluid. "What are you?" Looked down at the creature that had threatened to take, that had threatened to sell him, to use him, to break him. "I am human," she said. She brought her foot down on its head. They stopped moving. Behind her she heard sounds, footsteps, voices. She turned, her body still ready to fight, still running on whatever ancient fuel had woken inside her. But it was not more enemies. It was, holding his bleeding arm and staring at her with an expression she could not read. It was the who had been hiding, now emerging from their hiding places to look at what had happened. It was a group of survivors who had found safety behind the shuttle bay doors, peering out to see who had been fighting. And it was the cubs. The two unknown cubs were pressed against the wall, their small bodies shaking. They looked at with wide eyes, and she could see the fear in them. Fear of what had just happened. Fear of her. Was different. He stood where she had left him, his hands still raised as if he was holding onto her shirt. His mouth was open. His eyes were wet with tears, but he was not afraid. He was looking at her like she was the most amazing thing he had ever seen. He whispered. The sound of his voice broke something inside her. The ancient thing that had woken up, the beast that had torn apart 4 raiders, began to sleep again. The tension in her muscles released. The sharpness in her vision faded. She was just again a translator on a small station, a woman who read sad books in fake gardens, a woman covered in blood that was not her own. She knelt down on the floor, her legs suddenly too weak to hold her, ran to her and threw his small arms around her neck, pressing his face into her shoulder. "You saved me," he said. "You saved us." Wrapped her arms around him and held him tight. She could feel his heart beating fast against her chest, fast like a small bird. She could feel his tears soaking into her ruined shirt. She could feel everything all at once, and it was almost too much to bear. "I told you to close your eyes," she said. I peeked. Despite everything, she laughed. It was a broken sound, half sob and half laugh, but it was real. They were staring at her, all of them. Their ears were pressed flat, their tails tucked low. They looked at the broken bodies at the arms lying on the floor, at the blood splattered everywhere. They looked at the human woman holding the cub. "What?" one of them started to say. "How did you?" Did not answer. She did not know how to answer. How could she explain what humans were? How could she explain the million years of evolution that had made them what they were? The death world they came from, where everything wanted to kill them. The predators they had fought off with nothing but sticks and stones. The wars they had fought against each other, the violence written into their very bones. Humans looked soft because they had learned to be soft. They had built civilizations and art and music. They had learned kindness and love and peace. But beneath all of that, the old thing was still there, waiting, sleeping. Until someone threatened their cubs. Walked over, still holding his arm. Blood dripped between his fingers, but he was smiling. A strange, wild smile. "I have been in a lot of fights," he said. "Bar fights, station fights. One time I fought a drunken cargo loader who thought I cheated him." He looked at the dead. "I have never seen anything like that." Stood up slowly, still holding in her arms. The cub refused to let go, and she did not ask him to. "We need to get to the shuttles," she said. "There might be more of them." Nodded. "Right, yes, shuttles, good idea." He walked toward the shuttle bay doors, stepping over bodies like they were fallen logs. They followed, moving carefully, keeping their distance from. She understood. She did not blame them. She scared herself too, but held on tight, his small arms around her neck, his bent ear pressed against her cheek. And that was enough. The shuttles launched just as the human naval ships arrived. 3 warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel like wolves answering a call for help. The raiders, who had been so confident just an hour before, turned and ran. They did not stay to fight. They did not try to take more prisoners. They fled into the darkness between stars, leaving behind their dead and their failure. The human ships did not chase them. They had more important work to do. Sat in the shuttle's medical bay while a robot cleaned and bandaged her hands. Her knuckles were torn and bloody, damaged from hitting armor. Her arms were covered in bruises. Her whole body ached in ways she had not thought possible, but she was alive. The cubs were alive. That was what mattered. Sat beside her, refusing to leave her side. The other 2 cubs had been reunited with their families, crying and hugging and promising never to be separated again, but had no family. His parents had died in a sickness 2 years ago. The nursery was his home, was the closest thing he had to family. "Does it hurt?" he asked, watching the robot work on her hands. "A little." "I am sorry." "Why are you sorry?" "Because you got hurt protecting me." Smiled and touched his bent ear with her unbandaged hand. "I would do it again, every time. Do you understand?" He nodded, though his eyes were still sad. "The other are scared of you now." "I know." "Are you a monster?" The question hit her harder than any ever could. She looked at the cub, at his honest face, at his innocent eyes. "I do not know," she said quietly. "Maybe sometimes." Thought about this for a moment. Then he climbed into her lap, careful not to touch her injured hands, and rested his head against her chest. "I am not scared of you," he said. "You are my monsters do not sing songs about stars." She held him close and did not cry. She wanted to, but she did not. The story spread faster than light. First it traveled through the survivors, whispered from ear to ear. A human woman had fought 4 raiders, not with weapons, with her bare hands. She had ripped off their arms. She had killed their leader. She had saved a group of cubs and led them to safety. Then it traveled to the human naval ships, told by to anyone who would listen. The sailors passed it along to their friends on other ships. Those friends told their families. Those families told their neighbors. Within a week, the story had reached every human station in the sector. Within a month, it had spread beyond human space. The Galactic Council requested an official explanation. They called a special session, inviting representatives from 100 different species to hear what the humans had to say for themselves. The human ambassador was a woman named. She was small and polite, with gray hair and a gentle smile. She looked like someone's grandmother, the kind of person who baked cookies and told stories to children. She stood before the council and listened to their questions. "How is this possible?" asked the representative, a being made of crystal and light. "Humans are classified as a non-combat species. You have no natural weapons, no armor, no venom. How did one of your females defeat 4 warriors in direct combat?" Smiled, it was not a threatening smile. It was almost sad. "Humans are what we call persistence predators," she said. "On our home world, we did not have claws or fangs. We could not fly or breathe underwater. We were not the strongest or the fastest." She paused. "But we could run. We could run longer than any other animal on our planet. We would chase our prey for days, never stopping, never resting, until the prey was too tired to run anymore. And then we would kill it." The council was silent. "We evolved on a death world," continued. "Everything on our planet wanted to kill us. The animals, the weather, the plants. Even the water could kill us if we drank from the wrong place. We survived because we learned to fight back. We survived because we never gave up. We survived because when our loved ones were threatened." She looked around the chamber, meeting eyes of crystal and flesh and light. "We became something else entirely." The representative shifted uncomfortably. "This is disturbing information." "It is the truth. We hide it because we want peace. We hide it because we are ashamed of what we can become. But it is still there, inside all of us, waiting." "Waiting for what?" His gentle smile did not change. "For someone to threaten our cubs." They received the council's recording of the session. They watched it in their dark ships, in their hidden bases, in the cold spaces where they made their plans. They watched the small human woman with gray hair talk about death worlds and persistence predators. They watched her smile, that grandmother smile, while describing horrors. Then they watched footage from Gentle Dawn, security recordings that showed a human female tearing apart their warriors like they were made of paper. They had never felt fear before. They were the ones who caused fear. They were the monsters that parents warned their children about. But now they understood something new. There was always a bigger monster. The leadership met and made a decision that had never been made in their entire history. They created a list, a short list, a list of species that were too dangerous to raid. Humans were the first name on that list. On Gentle Dawn, reconstruction had begun. The station's residents slowly returned, rebuilding their homes and their lives. Some did not return. Some could not bear to come back to a place where such violence had happened. Thought about leaving too. She thought about going back to Earth, or to some colony world, or anywhere that did not remind her of what she had done. But then would look at her with those big honey-colored eyes, and she would forget about leaving. They treated her differently now. They were polite but distant. They stepped aside when she walked down the hallways. They did not meet her eyes. They did not touch her the way usually touched everyone. She understood. She was not angry. How could she be angry? She had shown them what humans really were. She had shattered their belief that humans were soft and harmless and safe. But was different. Still came to find her every afternoon. He still sat with her in the garden, asking questions about Earth and listening to her stories. He still let her teach him human songs, his small voice struggling with the strange words. One afternoon, an elder approached them in the garden. He was old, his fur more white than silver, his movements slow and careful. He was one of the station's leaders, a respected figure who had lived through many troubles. He looked at for a long moment. Then he bowed his head, the deepest sign of respect in culture. "Thank you," he said, "for saving our children." Did not know what to say. She had expected fear. She had expected rejection. She had not expected gratitude. "I did what any mother would do," she said finally. The elder looked at, who was pressed against side, watching the conversation with curious eyes. "He has no mother," the elder said. "Not by blood, but I think perhaps he has found one anyway." He bowed again and walked away. Tugged at sleeve. What did he mean? Looked down at the cub with the bent ear, the cub who had somehow become the center of her universe. She thought about family and blood and choice. She thought about the leather bracelet on her wrist, the one her brother had made, the one that liked to touch. "He meant," she said slowly, "that family is not always the people you are born to. Sometimes family is the people you choose, the people who choose you." His eyes went wide. "Does that mean you choose me?" "Yes. And I choose you. If you want to." He threw his arms around her, his small body warm against hers. "I choose you. I choose you forever." Held him tight and looked up at the fake sky of the garden, the painted clouds and the artificial sun. She was a monster. She knew that now. She had a beast inside her that could tear apart anyone who threatened the people she loved. But she was also a mother, a protector, a person who sang songs about stars to a little cub with a bent ear. Maybe she could be both. Maybe that was okay. Across the galaxy, species who had dismissed humans as soft and short-lived began to pay attention. They read the reports. They watched the footage. They whispered to each other about death worlds and persistence predators and the quiet species that hid monsters beneath their gentle smiles. And they learned a lesson that they had learned the hard way. Never threaten a human's cubs. Never,